I have this curious beast that lives inside my head, and I'm about to unleash it. All right, let's go. Don't you worry about a thing, John. This is a professional outfit.
It looks very professional, Karl. When I saw you turn up with your bags and all your gear.
No, let me tell you, the Karl Stefanovic show is mobile. We'll go anywhere for a story. And you are right up there on the list of people that I wanted to talk to, because it seems to me that, boy, oh boy, the last 3 or 4 weeks in this country, how have you viewed it?
It's actually scary. And if the average punter on the street knew exactly what was going on, they'd be horrified. And I've been banging on about this for many, many years. Previous governments, not just Labor, successive governments have put their head in the sand about fuel security in this country. So as a result of that, 5 years ago, when we won the Boeing tender to build the Ghost Bat at World Camp, Boeing said to me, listen, why don't you look at SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuel? I didn't know a thing about it. So I did 5, 6 round the world trips, looking at the different technologies. And the technology we landed on was municipal solid waste to jet fuel. Proven technology. And I couldn't get my head around using good quality ag land to make jet fuel. It just didn't seem right to me when we're shortage of food and we're one of the driest places on earth. And so we pursued the municipal solid waste. The plant, the refinery that we want to build will use about 450,000 tonnes of municipal solid waste. That's your red bin waste that currently goes to landfill, which is a major problem here in Queensland. It's a major problem around the world as far as I know. But it's a real problem in Queensland. So environmentally, it's a huge tick. Decarbonisation, it's a huge tick. And Boeing came in and reserved half our offtake. The offtake is 104 million litres a year of neat SAF and 12 million litres a year of renewable diesel. That's stage 1. So we've been working on that now for 3 years. We're out trying to do our third capital raise. It's about a $2.5 billion project. We can start it in 9 months or less, earthworks, early works, and we'd really like the state and federal governments to get on board. It's the sort of thing that the National Reconstruction Fund should come in as an equity partner. It is so serious what we've got at the moment. It's wartime. Australia's on a war footing. The average punter doesn't actually understand that. And if we don't do something about it and quickly and get refining capacity back in this country, not just SAF, but straight diesel and jet fuel, we're in for a world of hurt, and our kids are in for a real world of hurt.
Can you take me a little bit more into that? If you could sort out this whole problem and government got right out the way, what would you actually do?
I think the biggest issue we've got is shipping. There's plenty of fuel in Singapore, for instance, in Asia right now, but getting ships to bring it in. So that would be my first priority. But, you know, this excise tax at 50 cents plus a litre, road user tax, is just killing this country. We've become so uncompetitive that it's just about beyond fixing, and it's not a 4-year government term to fix. This is a long-term structural issue where I think that we're spending too much money in the wrong spots in this country and not enough to promote manufacturing and sovereign capability, and that's the key to it. We must have sovereign capability on every single front. if we run out of juice totally, China doesn't have to, come and shoot anyone. They just come in and give everyone a Chinese passport. We're taking over, right? That's how serious it is. And the average person doesn't understand that. If we run out of juice totally, and that could still be on the cards, I think we'll skimp through, but it's a very close shave, and we can't be in this position again.
For those who don't know your story, can you take us back and tell us a little bit about what you have achieved? Because you have built shit in this country, and quickly.
Okay, started 38 years ago in Toowoomba with one concrete plant. Grew that business significantly. So I'm in partnership at that time, was with my father and two other brothers. I'm now in partnership with myself and three other brothers. We built that business. We had a capital event. We sold some of it to Boral. We then grew the balance of the business through 2017, and we listed part of the business on the Australian Stock Exchange. That business is going fantastically well. It's a fantastic business. Back in 2012, in May 2012, we decided to build an international airport at Toowoomba. Toowoomba is the second biggest inland city in Australia, and didn't have an airport that could take a regular public transport aircraft. So I had been advocating to the state and federal governments and local governments for 20 odd years to turn Oakey into a common user airport, military and civil, like Newcastle, like Darwin, like Townsville. And the answer was a flat no. So we decided to build it ourselves. We had approval in December of 2012. We started in 2013, and we had a full-blown international airport built in 19 months and 11 days.
Okay, so can I just pull you up on something? I've got a place at Sunshine Beach in Noosa. I can't get a deck approved through council in 18 months, and you built an international airport.
In 19 months and 11 days. From start to finish.
It makes me sick.
Yeah, it's very annoying.
But how did you do that? Because the logistics, the mechanics, the negotiations, the relationships on every level, I would look at it now and go, that's impossible.
Well, we took advantage of the town planning laws in Toowoomba at the time, which means it was a code accessible application, which meant provided we got it lodged before June 2012, June 30, no one could object to it. So that was a clear strategy. Secondly, I went to Canberra in 2013 and met up with CASA and said, guys, I'm here to, show you my plans, introduce myself. They said, we know who you are, we know what you're doing, but Badgerys Creek has been 40 years in the making, and you'll say you're going to do this in under 2 years. So to their credit, they put a working group together with ourselves, Defence, Department of Transport, and Bureau of Meteorology, and everyone that counted, and we just ploughed through the crap, the bureaucratic crap at the time. And we said, we're building this regardless, so we're doing it. We don't need your approval. You fix the airspace up. We put men on the moon in the 60s, so you can sort the airspace out in 4 or 5 months, which they did, to their credit, 5.5 months. And we just got on with it. And at the end of the day, we opened on time and on budget, and we just got into it.
Isn't it unbelievable what can be achieved when government gets out the way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, we need to encourage private enterprise to invest. And that's not just handing out money, it's getting out of the way and getting on with it. This SAF plant, SAF refinery that we want to build in Toowoomba, to put it in perspective, it's 27 hectares, 5 stories high of stainless steel pipe. That's the size of it. And, it takes a lot to build a plant like that. But I am positive that we can build it from start to scratch in 2 or 3 years.
How does it actually work? How do you take everyday refuse, municipal waste, and transfer it?
So we'll have a transfer station in Brisbane somewhere where the local councils will bring their waste to the transfer station. We'll truck it in road trains to Toowoomba. We put it through a gasification process, so there's no smell, no odours. We gasify it. We take the gas off the gasifier, which is Japanese technology called syngas. We use another process to turn that into ethanol, once again, proven technology, and then take the ethanol and turn it into jet fuel, proven technology once again. So what we've done different to anyone else in the world, we've put the 3 technologies together. No one's ever done that, but they're all proven technologies. So we're very confident we can make this work and quickly.
What are the biggest problems you have right now?
Well, the biggest problems we have is twofold. One is actually getting the feds and the state to help financially, and that should be done via an equity participation, but we've got to move quickly, Karl. And secondly, Australia is one of the few countries in the world, in the Western world, that doesn't have a framework for the usage of SAF. So if we were to build this and Australia didn't have a framework, then all this SAF would be shipped to the UK, which would be criminal. So Catherine King and her department need to get on with it and get the framework in place. And given that we're on a war footing, that can be done in a matter of weeks, months, if they had the will to do it. I think they've got the will to do it because we're talking about decarbonisation here. It's not just about extra fuel, but if you get every litre of jet fuel, you get another 40% out of it. That's a big start to getting this sorted out.
So at the moment, China is saying they're not going to ship any more jet fuel. So that puts us in quite the predicament in a month or two. What does it do to fares? What does it do to the industry?
Well, it can only go one way with fares, and the airlines have to put it up. Like fuel's their single biggest cost. But the big concern is there's actually not enough fuel to go round. So which airlines get what? Do they stop international flights? Do they stop domestic flights? What do? Do they stop people going to work? It's just a flow-on effect. But what about the military? So meanwhile, back at the ranch, we put in a SAF blending plant where we import neat SAF from Singapore and we blend it with jet fuel at the airport. So we've got the only SAF blending plant at an airport in the country, the only one. And we did all that with our own money. It cost about $10 million to put it in. And both Pat Condon and Richard Moles have agreed that the military should use it. So that process is happening, although not as quickly as I would like or they would like. But that is in process. So we've just got to get on with this thing and make it work. And, those with the fuel, it's like those with the water can hold the rest of the world to ransom. If we've seen what's happening in Iran at the moment, they're actually holding the world to ransom. That's what's happening.
How do you think this fits in with what else needs to be done? Because if we don't have our own diesel security, which is obviously something we don't have at the moment, how do we go about fixing that problem? How can we, and what would you invest in for the country's future? They're talking about a bunch of different places around Australia, a couple in Queensland. Are any of those investments viable?
Yeah, I think they are. If you look at Inland Rail, that's a great project, Melbourne to Brisbane. gets so many trucks off the road. Not only does it decarbonise, but it also takes that demand for fuel and labour out of the market. Now, we bid at the last round to put a 70 million litre, a couple of 70 million litre tanks in at Wellcamp that would, for jet fuel, that would feed inland rail up and down the coast. And at the end of the day, the government did next to nothing. So it's really a matter of the feds and the states not looking at the electoral cycle and going from every 4 years, what do we have to do to get back in again, to actually making some really bold decisions for this country.
Do you think they're going to do that?
I don't think they are.
They've shown no appetite to.
I don't think they are. If you look at what the LNP are doing in Queensland, I think they have made some pretty bold moves, particularly around the Olympics. They changed their mind on that, which was definitely the right decision. I think David Crucifulli and Jared Blay are doing a fantastic job of actually getting stuff happening. We've got this SAF plant in front of them at the moment, and hopefully they'll see the light with that, get some local refining here. But I see the LNP this term are doing stuff beyond the electoral cycle, but that hasn't happened for a long time.
What happens if this diesel crisis keeps going to costs and the schedule around the 2032 Olympic Games?
It's going to hurt. So we've got, I think, 180 odd concrete trucks that work flat all day, every day, and we haven't delivered 1 cubic metre to an Olympic venue yet. So the industry is at capacity. So we're putting in a number of new concrete plants to be able to cater for it, and investing in the business to be able to supply these projects or supply other projects when the big guys supply the projects. So, the price of fuel has doubled in our business. We pass that on to the consumer. So the price of all infrastructure is going up at the moment.
What does that look like moving forward? Because at every element and every part of that chain in building big infrastructure projects is affected, all the way down to building houses, tradies.
Yeah.
I mean, every part of it, PVC.
That's right. Everything's affected. But the thing that I'm most concerned about, and this is why the excise cutting, or 50%, that'll actually help mums and dads a lot. But we've got to make sure that the fuel companies don't gouge. And let me tell you, I'm in the fuel business, right? I buy fuel and resell it. And I know what it costs to truck fuel from the refinery in Brisbane to Toowoomba, and that's 2.5 cents a litre. 2.5 cents a litre. Yet the price varies up to 50, 60 cents a litre from some stations in Brisbane to Toowoomba. That just tells the story. 2.5 cents.
It's cartel behaviour.
It is. It's got to be.
So what do you do about that?
It certainly appears to be.
I mean, I'm happy to get involved in a lawsuit if you are, as long as you pay.
I'm not big on lawsuits.
I haven't got cover yet.
I've had a few. I've had a few.
You've had a few as well. Look, but in all honesty, the ACCC, they say it's on top of it, but I mean, when you're talking about these, the 4 main oil refineries, and the discrepancy in price, from depots to the land, or to independent stations or any stations anywhere around Australia, it's highway robbery. It
is highway robbery. And, with our fuel business, I'm talking jet fuel now, we have contracts with our customers, and that's an open book contract. So there's a thing called MOPS in Singapore, which sets the price for the world effectively. And then there's a margin on top of that, so everyone can see what the price is. With diesel and petrol, it's very opaque as to how it works.
Why?
Just because the big guys control the market.
Is there nothing we can do about that?
There's nothing that I know of about it at the moment, apart from just keep on their case with the ACCC. But the ACCC are good when they want to be, but it's a big task.
They're a fearsome lot.
Yeah, well, I haven't had much to do with them, thank goodness.
No, but I just, everyone's banging on about it. But at the moment, we've got a real problem here in this country. And first of all, you need to solve that issue of supply and, the pricing for people at home at the Bowser is, if they can't do anything about it now, then how are they going to do anything about it in the future?
But if I take you back to COVID, right? We built the COVID quarantine camp in Toowoomba, which was a tad controversial at the time. We built 1,000 beds, brand new, from scratch, in 6 months for $200 million. Scott Morrison, the federal Prime Minister at the time, who didn't like our quarantine camp, so he decided to build, the Commonwealth decided to build one, 500 beds, 500, it's half the amount of beds, 550 million, and it got finished well after COVID. It's never been used. So there's a real problem in this country with governments getting involved in levels of construction that they don't have any experience. And they all go into backside covering mode. When you do a deal with the government, there's people there and they just look at risk. So when we bid for Badgerys Creek Airport, they said, you've got the best safety record, you're the only company that's actually built an airport in Australia, but you've never worked in Western Sydney, so we didn't let you tender. And that was KPMG with the federal government at the time. It's that sort of stuff that really has got this country so risk averse that it's gone the other way.
All right, so what do we do about it now? Because there's some real challenges over the next few weeks that we're going to face.
Well, my understanding is when World War II was on, the government could use whatever rules they wanted to get stuff built and to get stuff done. That was my understanding.
Are we at that point now?
We are. We absolutely are, and we need to get cracking on it, and the government need to be brave. And I think any federal government, state government, or even down to the local government should get out of the road and make sure that these things can be done quickly and efficiently.
I guess devil's advocate, you're going to say that because you want to benefit from it.
But it's true. Of course we want to benefit from it. Am I going to go and spend $2.5 billion on a fuel refinery and not expect to make money? But it's either that or the thing mightn't even happen. That's the difference.
What do you think is going to happen in the next little while? And how will Australia change in the next few weeks if things aren't sorted out over there?
It's going to be a disaster. And if fuel rationing comes in, essential services such as food, ambulances, police, the military, that they should and will get preference over mums and dads trying to get to work, take their kids to school. That's where it could get to. Hopefully it won't.
But you're looking at it, I mean, you have tremendous experience across every aspect of the cycle. What do you think about at night?
I'm just really worried for our kids and grandkids, and I've got 6 beautiful children, 5 grandchildren, another one on the way. If we don't change the way things are done in this country, they're stuffed without rich parents. They haven't got a chance in hell. So that worries me. And they're all in good paying jobs and they've all got mortgages. But it's tough to bring up little kids, this day and age, even if you're on, a very good wage. So if you've got limits and fuel's $3 instead of $1.80 or whatever it was, then it hurts every time they go to the Bowser. It's after tax. So it's double it. you know.
I mean, this government has been on the path of net zero, and that's all fairly effective during an international fuel crisis.
So you're saying don't fly any jets because there's no SAF, so everyone just stops flying, and then
the place grinds to a halt.
Absolutely, it grinds to a halt. There's actually a better way, and that is having our own refining capacity for sustainable aviation fuel and other fuels, diesel and jet and petrol, and getting the best of both worlds. So the only way the airline industry can decarbonise is with SAF.
How does it go with up against hydroelectric?
No, it's totally different. It's effectively it's a fossil fuel made without any oil. And if you look at all the woke people in this country who have stopped major oil projects, it's crazy. They're one of the reasons we're in this position. And the other thing is that if you look at projects like Snowy 2.0, like it's just blown out that far now that no one can even count the numbers. It should have been done totally differently. It should have been done totally by private enterprise. It was being built by private enterprise but contracted wrong. The contracting strategy was never going to work, and we've proven that now. So it's up to people that can actually do stuff to get it done.
The reality is, though, that local councils, state governments, federal governments are so heavy with bureaucracy and compliance. I mean, I don't know if that can change. I mean, just look at the hoops you need to jump through, the bars you need to jump over to get stuff done.
But that's the issue, Karl, and it takes a brave government to be able to change that. I'll give you a good example. 3 months before we opened the airport, back in 2014, CASA decided to refer the airport construction, this is 3 months before we opened, to the EPBC Act, Federal Environmental Act. So that to go through the EPB process takes typically a minimum of 12 months. So we'd started selling tickets. Qantas had started selling tickets. I went down to Canberra and sat down with all these bureaucrats and said, tell me about the process. And I said, okay, what's the next step? Well, they said, we've got to look at the flora and fauna. I said, well, there is none. The whole site's cleared. There's not a kangaroo.
Sure, there wasn't like a rare frog there.
No, I said, there's no rare frogs. There's nothing. Then the barrier reef. We've got to check out the effects of the barrier reef. I said, guys, it's on the western side of the Great Divide. It goes to the Condamine River. It doesn't go to the barrier reef. That was the level of incompetence at the time. Long story short, we got it bowled over in about 2 weeks, but it took real force to actually get that to happen.
But you've got a gift for it, obviously. I mean, dealing with government, it would do my head in.
Well, you've just got to keep punching through. That's the only way I can see it can happen. And the amount of time it takes, the defence industry to make a decision, then actually build stuff. We've got submarines coming in like 10 or 15 years' time, 15 years' time. Well, I'll be a real old man by then. You'll be sort of semi-old. So, that's a bit of a worry. We've got one submarine that works, I think, if it's still working.
And look what Iran's done.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Iran have got the whole strait locked, effectively. And they got, the aircraft carriers from the US sitting there, don't know what to do.
People are going to balk at the cost involved in making this country sustainable, but what else is there?
But maybe what we've got to do, Karl, is really look at where the money's going to and how wisely it's been spent. And I do agree with Clive Palmer on some things that this government have done. You know, the PNG is 600 million for a footy team. Surely it doesn't take, you know, $500 million to set up a football team. Surely be to God. NDIS is a mess. If you go through it, you know, the whole health thing's a mess. Education's a mess. You know, what's been happening with these universities on the television last night, the amount of money they're spending on consultants, the whole world's gone crazy. You know, it needs a reset. And until we get a reset, it's not going to change.
We're just all about on this show because we want to do something to save this country.
Yeah.
And we want to offer the ideas, we want to talk about the ideas, and that's where someone like you comes in. How do we reset? What do we do?
Well, we need politicians with vision and guts to do it, and not be worried about being elected the next time round. And I don't see that happening with any level of government anytime soon. So all we can do is just keep working our backsides off so we can look after our own families and whoever else relies on us. And there's a lot of people that rely on our company. You know, we're talking a lot of people that need that check every second Friday to buy groceries, and they're all hurting.
It sounds almost depressing. I mean, is it that bleak? Can't we just fight our way out of it? I mean, there are so many hardworking people who watch my show and they want to do something.
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, but it is pretty bleak out there. The issue is guys like us and our family, we live in a bubble, you know, and I live down at the Gold Coast on the beach, and we live in a bubble. We go out for lunches, we drink nice wines and all that sort of stuff. But the average punter with 3 or 4 kids trying to put them through school, it's tough. It is really tough. So, you know, I don't know what the answer is, but what we're doing now is not working.
It feels like we're on the precipice of something, you know, pretty bleak.
So when we started in business in 1989, we were paying 20.75% on our overdraft. The kids, young people now, with 6% struggle to pay their mortgages. Imagine if that doubles or triples. You just imagine the mess this country would be in. So, you know, the government, the Reserve Bank, there's a lot to be taken into account here.
The Reserve Bank, you got any words for them?
I have no words for the Reserve Bank.
Come on.
Well, you know, sometimes you've got to go through a bit of pain to get the place kicking again. And to keep putting up interest rates, you know, to me is not the answer. You know, let inflation go a bit. You know, who cares if it's 6 or 7 or 8%? It's not like some of these African countries where it's bloody 90%. You know, it's still low. And there'll be a correction in the market. But the price of housing's just crazy. You know, you get nothing in Brisbane for $1.5 million. You just don't.
That's a real issue.
It's a real issue.
I don't know how kids can afford a house, anyway.
Well, bank of mum and dad, typically. And it's going to get worse before it gets better.
What's ahead? What lies ahead in the next couple of weeks?
I just hope that the feds are really on top of this fuel issue. You know, and I heard Albo say last night, you know, they've been given authority if there's a spare ship and it costs an extra $20 million US to get it here. That number horrified me. It horrified me, which means that's got to be passed on to the consumer. Just does. It's the way life works.
What does that look like at the Bowser?
Oh, $4.
We're ready for that?
Well, you know, the electricity grid can't handle too many more electric cars or electric buses or electric trucks. You know, that's not the answer. gas and diesel are part of the mix. Coal-fired power stations have got to be part of the mix until it's sorted.
Try and get coal-fired power stations through. I mean, it's just the only way to guarantee, isn't it?
Well,
but no one's brave enough to do that these days.
Well, you look at what the guys from Adani went through.
Yeah.
We worked with them for years and years to help them get that project across the line. And now look at what it's doing for this country. It's doing a lot for India too, but it's doing a hell of a lot for Queensland. And they're good operators.
But geez, we're shipping a whole lot of coal over to China and India, aren't we?
Yeah, and iron ore,
Yeah.
Why aren't we making steel in this country? Why has China got to be the biggest steel manufacturer in the world? Why can't we do that?
What else can we do?
That's it. The whole supply chain, we've got to learn from this. And I'm really proud of Boeing that they're actually building these ghost bats in Australia.
What is a ghost bat?
It's an uncrewed jet. So they use them for multiple things, to go out ahead because there's no pilots, they don't get killed. They fly along the side the F-18s and do reconnaissance and, they say they don't put missiles on them, but I think that's well and truly coming. And they're building them in Toowoomba at our airport.
How does that happen? How does Boeing do a deal with the Toowoomba family business?
Well, they went round.
I mean, who are you, man?
So what Boeing did, they went around the country looking for sites. And we were one of the sites that put our hand up. And we went through the process with them and went through the pluses with WellCamp. And it's privately owned and operated. So you're dealing with the boss, right? The owner. Secondly, we use a lot of sustainable construction products. Our earth-friendly concrete, for instance, that should be used with everything for the Olympics should be earth-friendly concrete. Decarbonise it at very little extra cost. Why that doesn't happen, it's just falling on deaf ears. Proven product once again. And we've got 351 clear flying days in Toowoomba, so the weather's good, airspace is good, and we're nice people to deal with. So it's their only final assembly plant outside North America, and it's in little old Toowoomba. So, thousands of jobs over the period.
Like I said, who are you?
Yeah.
It's getting shit done.
Well, we'll build that facility. It's a big facility for Boeing in well under 12 months from start to finish.
What do you say to the detractors?
Get stuffed. Just think of your kids and grandkids and let's just get this country back on track.